everyone, welcome back to 996 Howl. A wild night, 8 hours. If staying up for that full 8 hours, if you did that, congratulations to you. It was very interesting for a city council meeting. I know Coyotes fans are used to these. In Glendale, there's a lot of council meetings. I barely remember one in Glendale. Maybe I caught a couple, maybe a half hour of it in the Glendale one, but this one I followed all the way through. I was engaged for the most part once they got to the reading comments where they were going to do over 200 cards that people have submitted. Thankfully they stopped after like 50 where they realized they could just post them online. But it was really engaging. It didn't even feel like 8 hours. Just was really excited. It's about the Coyotes, something I really care about. So obviously I was in it for the long haul. No champagne, because it's not like a done deal. The arena is going to happen immediately. Let's go to Tempe. It's just an approval by the city council of Tempe to move forward in the negotiations. They're not going to look at any other proposals. They're going to do their hardest to make this work with the Coyotes and development group. And it's just going to be, right now, the next step is months-long negotiations between both parties. Make sure everyone's on the same page. Any concerns are squashed. And, I think once the first shovel hits the ground to build the arena, because I'm pretty sure the arena will be built first as opposed to all the other things listed, I think that's when we'll get the champagne. But, for Coyotes fans, whenever there's hope, whenever there's a glimmer of hope, there's something in the back of your mind that, could pull it away. We're all familiar with that. So yes, a yes equals city and developer negotiate. If it was a no, the city council would have looked at other proposals and reopened the submission process, because the Coyotes and the development team were the only proposals submitted for the land in Tempe. The vote was 5-2 in favor of the Coyotes. One of the no votes was leaving in 30 days in government. So not sure about that one. No one really talked about this. I would expect mainstream media, maybe The Athletic, when you're going to talk about the Tempe arena and the Coyotes' feasibility to build an arena. This was available to the public and no one talked about it. No one really discussed this. When I found it, I was like, why did no one talk about this? I'm sure Craig Morgan did, but here it is. This is the evaluation criteria to show that the Coyotes and the development team behind them are suitable for this land. So you got 6 categories here. Experience with building large mixed-use entertainment facilities. They scored 140 out of a possible 200. When they hired Javier as a CEO, he was really familiar with building new arenas across America. So, that they had a plan for a really long time since Morello bought the team. It's been a long process, and it's only going to continue to be long. They got at least 3 years in the 5,000 seat facility with ASU. So it's still a long process, but credit to Morello and his commitment, both financially and, personally. He's an older guy. These years matter to him, but he's in it for the long haul. He knows it's a process, and everyone around him knows it's a process. It's been a hard process, so they just got to continue going. The next category, which was their worst, was financial strength and ability. They scored 80 out of 200, so this is their worst score. It's below average, I would say. They don't describe these categories. Most of them are like, you can tell easily what each of these are. But financial strength and ability, you don't know what they're looking at. If it's like a financial tool, like real cash flow to debt, or how much debt Morello has, or, looking at all his other companies like the gambling business, his businesses in Vegas. So, they do score low, but not sure what that means. Obviously, if he had no money, this whole project wouldn't be recommended, and they wouldn't be able to convince the city council to move ahead with the proposal. So obviously they have money. I'm just not sure what this contains within this category. To me, it's just a financial tool that probably the city uses. I would assume it's like real cash flow to debt or something along those lines. Could be wrong. Could be they have no money and the city council made a wrong decision. Capacity to include project team, also not sure what that means. I think maybe to include the city council's own project team in the process. They scored 180 out of possible 200. Project design is unbelievable. They even remodeled the design. We'll get to that later. 180 out of 200. Financial feasibility, public benefit feasibility, economic feasibility, probably the most important category, I would say. 140 out of a possible 200. This is going to benefit the city of Tempe, the public. They're going to get jobs. What is it here? Almost 7,000 new permanent jobs, new retail, new experiences. Just going to put, a real gem in the city of Tempe where people flock down and experience such a great entertainment district, and it will really make the city of Tempe more lively. And financial feasibility, the government is going to be making money on this deal. Don't have the correct numbers, but throughout the meeting last night, they were saying like the city's going to get $7 million, in property tax every year or something along those lines, or every point of sale, the city will get a little fraction of each sale, like I think it was like 0.25% off every single sale. Could be wrong on those numbers, but the government is going to be making money with this project, just like the Coyotes and the development team will be making money. And then they had an interview with the city, scored 170 out of 200. Total was 890 to 1200, which was enough for the evaluation team to recommend this proposal. They said this evaluation was very thorough, a lot of independent analysis. It's a third-party team doing the evaluation. It's not the city itself. And it's independent. They interview the development team and the Coyotes, and it's a thorough evaluation. So this matters. There's just not some throwaway, you could recommend it. It's like, we're talking about like smart people, a lot of red tape, a lot of rich people too. And it matters, and it helped them to get the vote in favor of the Coyotes and the development team. That's why there's leaks, a couple days before the meeting saying this was going to be approved, and that's why I made this board on Monday, hoping I didn't jinx myself for 5 days. Talking about the meeting itself, it was great to see Clayton Keller, Fisher, and Schmaltz talk. They look like high school kids, even though they're multi-millionaires. It was very short and sweet, pretty funny. I loved Shane Doan's period of talking, just was really emotional for me, and seeing how long and how committed he is to Arizona itself. Like, this guy grew up in rural Canada, a small town, had no idea about Arizona, came here, fell in love with it, stayed, and raised a family in Arizona. It was just a great story, and so happy that the Coyotes team was able to reconcile the relationship with Doan. I know it went sour when John Shaika and Doan, John Shaika wanted to depart from Doan, and Doan didn't really feel like it was the end of his career. But, unfortunately, no team wanted to grab Doan, and that was the end of his career, unfortunately. But really happy that he's in the ownership group. He's well-spoken, confident. He's been around the NHL, been around Arizona for so long. He's got kids at ASU. We drafted his son. It's just a real good, feel-good story, and, you don't really see that too often. Also, Lindsay Fry had a great 3 minutes to talk as well, and Accardo, I'm forgetting her name, I feel so bad. Her mom was there talking about how much the Coyotes did for Accardo and put her in the Ring of Honor. Hopefully her banner transfers from Gila River to the new Tempe Arena. Also, with this approval, if it goes to the final stage where shovels are in the ground and they start building the structure of the arena, there is going to be a 30-year non-relocation clause that the NHL has forced the Coyotes and the city to agree on. So once, the first, metal beam or wooden structure of the arena gets put into the ground, it's going to be the Coyotes staying in Arizona for at least 30 years. So that's great for, stability, no more relocation jokes, no more shadow at the back of our heads, looming that relocation is going to happen if something goes wrong. It's 30 years once the arena starts to get built. Also, Gary Bettman has promised an NHL draft, an NHL All-Star game once the arena starts to be built, and obviously is built. So that's great news. Gary Bettman has been behind the Coyotes for so long. He's been in sync with the ownership group of the Coyotes. When Morello bought the group, Bettman was even saying, the Coyotes need to move to the east side of the valley. They can't stay in Glendale. It doesn't work. Morello was in sync with that too. He got Javier, who's, has history in building arenas across the state. So it's been a long process. They've been in sync with the NHL and the Coyotes. They both want this. They both know this will be success for the Coyotes if this actually does finally go through. The opposition in the meeting was Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix. Pretty crazy. I just want to shout out the Coyotes attorney, Nick Woods, who was so passionate and so, emphatic in this meeting. And he was just using lawyer speak, but made it so interesting. And I never really was so interested in lawyer talk in my life. So the fact that he could make it interesting for the layman and make me engaged and eyes to the screen whenever he was talking. I felt like later into the meeting he was tired and he was kind of off his game and he had to defer to Javier. Javier, who's a very well-spoken, calm, steady guy. He's just, whenever he speaks, it's always smooth, consistent. He doesn't show emotion and isn't as emphatic, but it's always like a straight talker and calms you down with the right words, whereas Nick Wood was very emotional, was very passionate in his speaking, but near the end, he got a bit tired, I can tell. But yeah, the opposition was Sky Harbor Airport. Their main issue was noise, plane runway, trajectory, and this intergovernmental analysis agreement, which was made in 1996. We'll start with the noise. The Sky Harbor Airport says it's going to be too noisy, but even in their own reports, they said you can build residential buildings around the airport if you disclose to tenants that it might be noisy, but you also got to install some soundproof to lower the decibels, like dual pane windows, roof architecture to defer the sound away, and something to do with architecture to defer noise away. And but also, the Coyotes' rebuttal to that was there's residential buildings built on the west side of Sky Harbor in the same distance, 10,500 feet to the west. There's residential buildings, and 10,500 feet to the east is where the proposal of the Coyotes' residential buildings will be. Also, the airport was concerned about the height of the cranes and the actual buildings when they're being built. The Coyotes took that to heart and repurposed their proposal. And so their new proposal, everything's under height. The cranes won't be piercing this imaginary height barrier. So everything's safe on that end. And the intergovernmental agreement, the IGA, made in '96 between the city of Phoenix and city of Tempe, where they kind of can build residential buildings on the border of the two cities. Not sure what that is about, but they're pretty adamant that they needed to keep to that agreement. But also the city of Phoenix said in their submitted rebuttal that even if the city of Tempe wants to go through with this proposal, the city of Phoenix is willing to sunset that agreement anyway. So it really didn't make sense. It's like at one hand, like, hey, we have this agreement from 30 years ago. It says you can't do this. But on the other hand, even if you go through with this proposal, we're okay with sunsetting the agreement and scrapping it. So it really didn't make sense there. And everyone who stepped up to the podium that was against the Coyotes was either a pilot or an airline official that kept saying noise, and because it's so hot in Arizona, the planes use so much power and it's so noisy. But, it was all redundant because the official city and Sky Harbor documents and FAA approved documents show that you could build residential near the airport if you have certain soundproof elements in the residential units. And you disclose to the tenants there will be noise. So the Coyotes are all willing to do that. The Coyotes are so engaged with this proposal that they're willing to do everything they can to be FAA approved, and they are. Also, the Sky Harbor Airport submitted maps and sound decibel maps, which showed that the Coyotes' proposal is going to go against those maps of sound and height and all this. But then Nick Woods came back and said those aren't FAA approved maps, and we follow the FAA approved maps, and everything is in code. So that was thrown out too. So, it was only really Sky Harbor that was against it. You also had a lot of residents who had to leave Tempe due to high rent, and a lot of people in favor of affordable housing, that they rather have affordable housing there. But, not sure what to make of that. It sucks for those people. I wish you could live wherever you want, but, there's a housing crisis everywhere in America. This Coyotes arena being built on a land dump, a 46-acre land dump, 30 feet deep of dump and waste, needs to be cleaned up. It's not the city is never going to approve affordable housing on that land because it's going to cost over $200 million to just clean up the land, which the Coyotes are willing to pay themselves privately. So they're never going to get such a proposal where a privately owned business is going to clean up the land, build their arena, build their residential units, all on their own money, all in accordance with code and all this. So hopefully the city of Tempe really took those concerns to heart and finds other ways to build affordable housing and get some of those passionate residents back into the city of Tempe. But it's an America-wide problem of inflation and rising rent and the housing crisis and people having to leave. It's just not Tempe. It's everywhere. And, unfortunately, the Coyotes building an arena isn't going to affect that at all, if I'm allowed to say that. If I have anything else to say, no drones are allowed at the arena. Fair. No fireworks. They were so concerned about fireworks and lasers and a light show, but it's an indoor arena, so not sure what the point of that rebuttal was. And the President of the United States can never visit the arena because it's so close to the runway, and it might provide a security risk, and the Coyotes agreed to that too. A bit of a weird thing, but in a post 9/11 world, I guess you gotta say those things, that, it's a security risk to the president. If he's at that arena and it's so close to the runway, you could imagine the problems it could cause. So the actual proposal is not just the arena, like I mentioned sometimes. 16,000 seat arena, not 5,000. 1,600 plus residential units, like I talked about. It's mixed between residential apartments and hotels. Right there, 500 plus hotel rooms, 300,000 square feet retail and dining. That includes like restaurants, shopping centers. So it's a whole thing. They're basically going to replicate Westgate, hopefully better, in the city of Tempe. They're going to have a public ice rink. I also saw they're going to have an intimate theater venue. I'm not sure if that's outside or inside. 6,900 new jobs, and built with private funds, $1.7 billion proposal for this whole complex. So I think that's all I have to say. Really thorough. I wanted to be thorough and explain everything. If I missed something, obviously I probably did, but this is what happened last night. Moving forward, it's the Coyotes and their development team's proposal and the city council. They're going to negotiate and make this work. Both parties are going to strive really hard to make this work. That was the whole point of the vote. There's no other outside noise. It's just them two sitting for months long periods and discussing how they're going to move forward. Once shovels start digging into the ground and the dump gets clean, maybe I'll open up some champagne, but this is good news. Now we could, we're still in June. Well, June just started. So by the time the Coyotes play their first game at ASU, we already have this in our back pocket saying if anyone makes, a low capacity joke, it's like, hey, it's not a permanent thing. It's temporary. Look at our brand new proposal right here. This is the future of the team. This is just, a bump in the road that everyone's going to forget in 3 to 4 years. So hopefully everything works out. Hopefully, there's always something that could happen. You never know with these things, but really happy with the vote. Really happy that we could all breathe a sigh of relief. Really happy that I was enjoying a city council meeting. I love the mayor of Tempe, just a class act, so passionate in his job, didn't waver at all, was so intent and purposeful in reading those comments, and he wanted to read all 200 comments. And there was other city council members who were like, guy, we can't do this, let's just skip this. But he was adamant on doing it. Yeah, he was a great mayor. The people of Tempe, you have a great mayor, and you're very lucky. And it was a very engaging meeting, which I wouldn't think I would ever be interested in, but it went really well. It was funny at times too. It was great entertainment, to be honest. I didn't even know there was a playoff game happening at the same time. So that's it for me. Hopefully you like this video. Next week, I'm sure I'm going to have a draft video. And yeah, thank you for your support. And as always, thank you for watching. And thank you for your support.